Hopefully. Yeah, it should be working. Uh, I would start maybe with the kind of very general question, but maybe what's your opinion or your perspective on the idea, what kind of technologies or more general some kind of types of knowledge which are most important right now to focus according to you for our future, for the future of science and let's say modern liberal democracies right now?
Oh, that's a huge question.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, there are a lot of technologies that are very important. If I have to sort out technologies and somehow list them from the most important to the least, maybe I would say that anything that concerns what we call the quantum physics, anything that is connected to somehow understanding the world of the subparticles of this universe, because from quantum physics we're going to develop amazing things that our imagination can't even think about it at the moment. So if I am to list them, I would put quantum physics before even artificial intelligence. A lot of people are really thinking AI is the most important thing. I don't think so. I think we are in a crossroad in the evolution of humankind in terms of the way we understand nature, and it will be much important than realizing or discovering the DNA or the atom or whatever. This is really something that is huge in terms of breakthrough into understanding our understanding of nature.
If you mention those quantum technologies, do you mean it in sense how we actually understand the matter, the reality itself? That's the breakthrough you are expecting.
Yeah, exactly. We are digging deeper now into the subparticles to understand the nature of their behavior, which is, it seems to be very different than the behavior of particles themselves. And if we will understand the nature of the behavior of those subparticles, we will be able to develop technologies and communication technologies and almost everything else. Everything else will be derived from our understanding of particles in this universe.
So we've mentioned the first one, the one most important. What are the, for example, other two technologies that you see as those key technologies for the future? I mean, the OECD, for example, often does those. I think every year does those technology briefs where when the organization is trying to find some the most important the technologies for the future. So yeah, so I'm trying to go with this vein and see your opinion on this.
Well, there are a lot of things. Really, humanity is about to go to a different level of its development. And basically speaking, our tools for millennia were the vehicle for our developments. Sometimes it started in our mind, and then we developed our tools. Sometimes we developed tools that change totally the way we are thinking. Okay, but we are at a stage in which I believe those two vectors are merging, and we are developing tools even without understanding exactly what we're doing. Really, we don't understand the far reach, for example, of artificial intelligence. But still, we're developing and it will totally change the way we are thinking about ourselves, about our surrounding, etc. So there are a lot of technologies that are emerging. Sometimes it's just emerging, let's say, without any intention of anyone to develop, but it's a discovery, let's say. Some other technologies are not a discovery, but a very focused efforts to try and develop those technologies. So, there are tons of technologies. I believe also that we as a species, we are emerging to be a totally urban civilization. Now, when you speak about urbanization, you speak actually that our cities will need to change totally. Now, in order to change, we will have to develop a lot of technologies that will make our mega cities something that is livable in. Otherwise, civilization might even collapse. And it has collapsed already during many times in the past in different places. So there will be an effort, first, as I said, to understand nature in its subparticle dimensions. There will be an effort to develop an extension of our intelligence, which is what we call artificial intelligence. Okay. And there'll be a great effort to accumulate a lot of technologies that will make our life in mega cities something that is sustainable, and of course will be good for humanity to continue and develop. So this is, basically, if you wish, a summary of things that I believe are at the top of what's going to happen.
We are talking about technologies primarily, but do you see, I've called it other forms of knowledge, but I mean other disciplines such as philosophy, social sciences, humanities, and so on, as something profoundly important for the development of the future? Or is it really something that our primarily technological future needs in this sense?
I see where you're heading. I'm coming from a school of thought that says that humanity is only in its very initial stage of evolution. Humanity 100 years ago, okay, a century ago, a couple centuries ago, 500 years ago, was very different than you and me at the moment. Now, and we are just at the very beginning. This Homo sapiens was somehow, has emerged in evolution about 200,000 years ago. But we are just a branch of Homo sapiens. We are called Homo sapiens sapiens. We emerged only 10,000 years ago, something like that, which is the beginning of the beginning of the beginning of our evolution, by all means. And we are awakening to understand our surrounding. Okay, in the prehistory epoch, people were just, thinking with some dogmas, if you wish, about their surrounding. And then came philosophy, and then came religions, and then came, let's say, art, and then came science. But these are only the very early stages of our evolution. So we are at an era in which science is the dominant, if you wish, dogma. It's much more than a paradigm. It's a dogma. It's like religion, as it used to be, 3,000 years ago. So with that kind of thinking, we are trying to continue and understand ourselves, understand our surrounding, and try to continue pushing evolution in directions that we think are the best directions, but we are still very, very young to understand really what's best. And we are doing mistakes in that journey, etc. But I'm coming from a school of thought that says that all those, let's say, dogmas, from religion to philosophy to social, empathy and sciences are working towards the same goal.
Mm-hmm.
And if we have been in an era in which those disciplines were separated, we are entering an era in which those disciplines are going to merge together. So I develop a lot of technologies, and I know that in any technology I'm trying to develop, I have to insert philosophy. I have to insert the way I understand the behavior of humans. So everything is already, combined, and the symbiotic between those disciplines is getting better and better and better the more we progress. So that I believe a century from now, or a couple centuries from now, they will be laughing at us, thinking that they were reflecting that we started as a disciplinary kind of science. It's not anymore nowadays. Already, it's not the case in many places. We used to think in a very disciplinary way. In the last, let's say, 30, 40 years, we emerged to think in a multidisciplinary way. But now we are going to another level, which is anti-disciplinary way, which means, you bring people that are far away from each other in their discipline and bring them together to, establish a new thinking, solve problems, etc., etc. This model is already emerging in different places. So they bring a person that studied the computer science with philosophy, and together they are trying to come up with a use case of a technology that will solve the problems of urban life in the future, etc., etc. It's not any more disciplinary as we used to think in the last 50 years.
So if I understand it correctly, you see the course of the future as something profoundly anti-disciplinary and is breaking the walls of the fields and disciplines.
Exactly. The term anti-disciplinary is already known in some circles, and some companies as well as academic programs are already implementing it in their decision making and their teamwork, etc.
You said about in your answer that in many cases we actually don't know and almost cannot know what type of technology we are actually developing, or what type of technology will be the consequences of knowledge we are trying to pursue. And I think that's something very interesting that I would like to ask about next, because just this summer I was a part of this summer school on Harvard University, and there was great discussion about limits on the science. It was mainly about synthetic biology, and obviously the pandemics and COVID-19 opened plenty of questions about that, and especially about limiting this pursuit of knowledge for knowledge's sake, and I would be very interested in your point of view, even as someone who is interested in predicting the future. Is it even possible to limit this not only scientific research, but more general, this pursuit for knowledge? And is it something we should do or shouldn't do, if I may ask this way?
Okay, this is a debate that has been going forever. Okay, let's say let's say at the beginning, well, in the prehistory era, think about how people were afraid of even discovering the wheel. Think about how frightened they were when they discovered the fire. Okay, I can bet that there were a lot of people that said this is the end of humanity. Okay, the fire is going to eliminate everything without intention of anyone. So every generation we have the same debate. What we forget is that we are just playing with our minds. There is a tendency of development, of evolution, that we can't even stop it. You know, there were some cultures that tried to stop development in different times in history, and they ended in a disastrous, circumstances, because there were even cultures that were put aside in history because they didn't want to continue thinking, they didn't want to continue developing things. I believe that we are barely scratching what the human mind, and more specifically the collective mind of humanity, can achieve. Now, it will achieve things that are coming from our intelligence. For example, just to give you some sense, in the last 50 years, the IQ worldwide has augmented by 17%, which means our kids are already 17% smarter than us. Okay? Think about our life expectancy has tripled in the last 200 years. 200 years ago, life expectancy on average worldwide was 25 years old. Now we are 85 years on average. And it continues constantly every decade. Now we are adding another 2 or 3 years. So if you bring all these things together, you see that we are barely infants in evolution. We are just emerging and we are awakening. And I have just finished writing a book about the awakening of our consciousness, not our intelligence. Our intelligence has achieved amazing things, okay? And now we are trying to replicate it in our technologies, what we call artificial intelligence. But consciousness is the most interesting thing that we still don't understand it. We still don't have a definition of what consciousness is. And we are constantly awakening. It's like a kid of 2-year-old. He doesn't know that he's a kid. Okay? And then it takes more years and then more years, and then he starts awakening to his gender or to his surrounding and to his city and nation. It's an awakening progress that does not end. As a whole, as a humanity, as a species, we are just going to go through another phase of our awakening of our consciousness. We didn't even start to replicate it or to use it in our technologies, in our social, organizations, etc., etc. So, 500 years from now, humanity is going to be totally different than what we are now. Much more smarter, much more awakened to each behavior, to each surrounding, to each cosmos. Just think that only in 1968, we looked at our planet from the outside. We are just awakening to see that we are in part of something so huge that we cannot even grasp it in our mind. Now, those people that think to stop that process of evolution. I think they are timid, let's say. I don't think they understand what drives this species to continue evolving. We are just, going to be surprised of what we're going to be able to do. And we will be doing a lot of mistakes in that journey, but still we are evolving to be something unusual, by all means unusual in this planet. But we really don't know even if there are other planets with some intelligence that we will have to exchange ideas and develop new things, and we don't know. So we are just at the very beginning of we as a Homo sapiens species.
I have maybe slightly provocative question in the sense, do you see the current climate crisis as some of a mistake on the human
Yes.
evolutionary path to
Yes, it's a mistake. We are doing a lot of mistakes. I always tend to say it's like a kid. When you're a kid and you are eating, it's not only your mouth is eating, every whole body, all your clothes are eating, and you're doing a mess. And then the more you awaken, the more you grow up, the more you understand exactly how to eat, exactly the manners of social behaviors. You are much more cleaner. You use fork and knife, and that stage in your development is funny even. So we as a species, we are going through that infantry kind of phase in which we eat, we were so enthusiastic, everything was good, everything was yummy, everything was tasty. So we did a lot of mess around. Now we are awakening to see that it's not exactly good to do it. Well, so we'll take care of how first we behave, and then we will take care of our surrounding. We will continue taking care of our surrounding, but it's a journey of centuries, of millennia. It's not, a 10 years, a decade kind of efforts.
I have read that you've served also as a political advisor about science and research and so on. And I would like to ask about a little bit more about your opinion in this sense about EU policy in terms of research and technology. I would like to ask, in which way do you think the European Union is doing good steps for preparing for the future, be it climate change, current energy crisis, and so on? And on the other hand, in which way do you think the EU is failing according to your prediction?
Well,
and that's another huge question.
Yeah, well, we are trying. Look, the most important thing that I believe the EU is trying to do is to scan the landscape of innovation, the different kinds of fields of studies, fields of innovation that we need to engage in. So just by scanning and analyzing the landscape of our needs in the future is an amazing achievement by itself, because up to now we didn't do it. It was, kind of an eclectic endeavor. That's the first thing that the EU is doing very, very well. The other thing is that they are kind of developing the somehow exact, if you wish, list of priorities, because humanity doesn't have all the resources to take care of a huge landscape of innovation. So we have to put some priorities, and the EU is putting a lot of efforts to understand the genuine needs and list them in a list of priorities. That's the second most important thing that the EU is doing. Now, from my point of view, I would have just, add one more thing. And this is what we call long range future understanding of our needs. Most of the time, the EU is concentrating on at best 50 years ahead. Now, from my point of view as a futurist, 50 years is nothing. It takes much more than that to develop something, the huge projects. I'm not speaking about, an application in iPhone or whatever. So what we need is a far-reaching foresight of our needs and prioritize them from that far foresight, not from the next decade. Now, I understand the constraints because the people behind these efforts are politicians, and they need to show achievements in at best 5-10 years ahead. And that's very hard to do. There are some projects that are really huge and they are far reaching into the future. But most of the time, what the EU is doing is what we call problem solving. Okay, they understand the problems, they prioritize the problems, and then they open it to everybody to come with some solutions.
Yeah.
But that's not enough, because problem solving is something that already have happened and we have to deal with. I'm speaking about a different approach in which you have to, before a problem is emerging, you try to think about how to address it instead of just applying some efforts to solve it. And then it's a different approach in technologies, and there are a lot of technologies that can solve our problems before they even happen, because we can at this point understand some of the problems that will be very important to solve in the second half of the 21st century. And I believe that part of the resources need to go to that kind of thinking. So this is just one thing I would like to see the EU more engaged in, and I don't see it. Maybe I'm not exactly aware of everything that is happening, but I don't see it happening. All the calls for research and are kind of solving problems, but that's from my point of view, it's not enough.
So if I understand it correctly, there should be more focus not to responding of the problem of the presence, but also focus on the shaping or reshaping the future.
Exactly. More towards reshaping and avoiding problems that might occur in the future, not problems that already are in the making. That's something else. Okay.
Yes.
Any other question?
Yes. Just a quick question, maybe for the in the Czech context. You just currently were or have been in Czech Republic. Do you have any recommendation for science in Czech Republic? What such a small country as the Czech Republic could or should focus on to be relevant?
Well, it's not it's not a small country. We have the same population, about 10 million in Israel and 10 million in the Czech Republic. So you see, there is one key, really one key to everything, and that's it. That's what we call education. Education is the key for everything. For social life, for economics, for technologies, for sciences, everything is education. Now, I'm not very well familiar with the education system of the Czech Republic, but if there is something that the return of investment is the best that can happen, is investing in education. And it has been already debated all over the world. There are evidence that are clearly pointing to it. And as far as I understand, the Czech Republic is not exactly retaining their brightest people. There are people that brain drain is also something that is happening in the Czech Republic, and I believe it's part of the high tier of the pyramid of education, and that's where not only the Czech Republic but everybody needs to invest. And then that's the same issue in Israel. It's not just in Israel, it's in the US. Everywhere they are debating exactly how much to invest in education. In Israel, education is the second most important thing in the yearly budget of the government, after, unfortunately, the other things that we are all familiar with, and still I don't think it's enough, and everybody knows it. If we are to compete, if we are to be innovative, we have really to invest in education. And again, that's another big issue, exactly what kind of education, what kind of skills. This is another issue, but if there is something that might be stressed again and again and again, is education, education, and education.
All right, wonderful. I don't want to take too much of your time.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much.
It was great pleasure to talk with you, and I will send you the recording of the.
And you're going to write what?
Yeah, it's gonna be article which will come on the Věda-Výzkum.cz, but however the article will be in Czech.
Okay.
I could make a translation, but I will probably use some kind of software to translate it, and then
no problem.
Just take it from like the stylistic point of view. It's more just like to have the idea about content of the text.
All right. If you need anything from me,
you will know what is about, and
no problem. If you need a photo of me or whatever, some clarification, let me know.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
All right. Have a nice evening. It's in here is